and welcome to Toyfarerapy. I'm your host, Mr. Dr. Martin Toyfare. I'm joined by my wonderful YouTube wife, Mrs. Dr. Martin Toyfare, Jarmar_games, and of course, our wonderful nurse, Nate. Unfortunately, Corey is not able to make it today. He is having some house issues, and he's rewiring everything himself, so good luck to him. But we are...
Hopefully he comes back.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I don't know if I'll put that in the universe. I guess if the power grid suddenly flickers, we know. Anyway, we are joined by a very special guest today. You know him from many live streams where he talks to some of your favorite toy creators. He is Veebs. How are you today?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on. Yeah, I always enjoy watching the streams with, all your Super 7, NECA. Like, it's always so cool to see, someone in our space actually be able to sit down and talk to these people and ask the questions and that we're all kind of waiting to hear answers for. So we really appreciate you.
Well, I do it because it's fun and I get a chance to talk with, people who I consider to be friends, and they just happen to have really cool jobs, and they're interesting people to listen to because they do really cool stuff. So I do it because it's fun, and I'm just glad that other people are into it as well. So
yeah,
and also one of the more impressive backgrounds of YouTubers. So I mean, maybe only second to Kyle Peterson, but I don't like wrestling, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, I sometimes try to set up in different locations around the space down here, but this is the NECA cartoon collection. Some of the vintage stuff is usually the most fun for the turtle stuff. So
yeah. Every time you have a live stream, I'm just sitting there looking ooh, what's all back there? Let's see.
A little out of hand, I'll admit it, but it's. I feel fortunate that I get to have a space that's mostly to my liking in terms of being able to display all my stuff. So
yeah, it looks great. I can only imagine what the rest of the room looks like. Like, just seeing that, I'm like, man, I just want to get a 360 view and just kind of look around.
Robo and other people have been wanting to do a kind of walkthrough of the space, which I'm totally down to do. It's just getting the timing right, and I have some corners that I definitely need to clean up beforehand, because I'm looking at my background and it looks like a gob of almost chaos, and you guys have cool, organized, well-lit spaces behind you that it's like sometimes I long just for that nice little space that is clean, and it's fun to look at, and I get overwhelmed sometimes.
see, my mess is that way. This is a
Me too.
This is a little corner space that I've kept neat just for the background purposes. There's boxes and figures, and there's a station for the Let's Pose videos and stuff over there. That's a mess. So it's definitely all for show back here.
Well, and see, when we finished the basement space here in the house, it's like I had a spot designated that I was going to be like, you know what, this is going to be clean, and it's going to be eclectic, and it's going to be where I'm going to do all my recordings and stuff. And before I even got to do one of those, it just got overtaken by I need the space for the collection. So it's that's why it's just I kind of pick random places when I get to be on and do these types of things. And sometimes it's a little organized, sometimes it's a mess, but that's what I'm living right now.
It looks great from our side.
Yeah, our little rectangle looks fantastic. So
it definitely inspires me to have a lot of things that are just laying on the shelf and not even standing. So just don't zoom in close to my shelf. So.
Well, I'm guilty of that, which is why I like my Star Wars space, I like my Marvel Legends space, and my He-Man space too, but man, I'm just embarrassed to show those right now because it's stuff's just put as I got it, and it's things need to be reorganized and whatnot, and it's I keep telling myself I'm gonna do that, and then it's oh, when?
But see, then you go to do that and you get distracted playing with your toys, and you get nowhere anyway. So at least that's the issue I always have.
I've gotten distracted by like the Marvel Legends, trying to redo that, and Star Wars too. And the last He-Man one, I was like getting Origins like properly integrated into the larger display, and I was like 3/4 of the way done, and one of them took a dive and took out like
Oh,
half.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
And
that's
it's
it. Then
literally
I'll walk away.
like that since that happened, because I was so defeated. I'm like, I need to step away from this from like a week,
Yep.
and then come back to it. And a week's turned into like 6 months. So
Yep.
that's just how.
sometimes you need time to heal.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into some fun questions here. Our first question we like to ask everyone is, what is your first memory of like action figures? Like, what kind of stuff did you collect like as a kid, or play with as a kid? Because we didn't really know what collecting was probably at that age.
Yeah, right. Well, I was probably right in that prime toy collecting age in the mid to late 80s. So I'm going to date myself a little bit there. So really, I would say probably like the first like real like action figure memories that I have are, I was really into He-Man. And even though like I was a little too young for the beginning of it, but like the most vivid memory I have, which I know it's not like my first real He-Man experience, was whatever year the Evil Horde debuted in the action figure line, like the original four: Hordak, Leech, Grizzlor, and Mantenna. I was a big J.C. Penney's catalog kid around the holidays, and I remember like finding that page and just like being completely blown away by just the way that, because I mean, those old catalog pictures, they were amazing, the things that they did as far as like the setups and whatnot. And was that catalog always came out, I think, in like early autumn, to give people plenty of time to do their catalog shopping, because back then it was like 6 to 8 weeks for delivery. And I just remember like being completely gobsmacked by that group. And my mom, like, I don't know if like she could tell or if she was taking pity on me or whatever, but I remember that like the day we got the catalog and I found them, she ordered them and on the couch, and I was sitting right next to her. And as a kid, I guess I didn't really have any concept of how long 6 to 8 weeks was for delivery, but it felt like a damn lifetime waiting for that crew. And then, when the Evil Horde arrived, it changed everything as far as Masters of the Universe goes. So while that's probably not like the very first thing that I can remember, it's definitely my most like vivid early memory of collecting or playing with action figures. So yeah,
That's a great one.
That
Because
really
I
is.
remember that too. Yeah. I believe that
I
would have been 85. So
probably 85, which would have been about perfect timing, because I had older cousins, so from a younger age I like was aware of some of the other characters, because like Merman was like instantly my favorite figure, but I got him, I think, through them. And then I just had a couple of like really exciting, memorable Christmases of Masters of the Universe, and then Thundercats kind of rolled in with them too. And then I kind of made the transition to like real Ghostbusters and some of the old WWF stuff, and it's like those were really my big ones when I was a kid.
Yeah, I remember like 'cause I was a '90s kid, but we still had like the catalogs and everything like that. Which for if on the off chance there are younger viewers here, it's essentially your Amazon wish list, but it was on paper and you had to wait significantly longer.
Yeah.
and you because like there would be J.C. Penney's, and then I would also get a one. I don't know if it was regional, but it was best.
Yeah,
Products before my time.
like the big bold letters, best. I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
Oh god, I still remember the Filmation Ghostbusters display, because I never saw those in stores, and I just would stare at that page and it just take it all in. And I wanted, never got them.
It's funny you say that, because I was essentially in that same boat, even though like my Horde moment, seeing Primeval on that on for the first time, it was like, this is something I have to have, but that never came to be, sadly enough. So yeah, it's so much better like not having to wait so long when you order something now. But man, the painstaking detail that went into like those photography sessions and old commercials and stuff like that. It's like I remember the media associated with toys almost as much as the toys themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a great.
Have you seen that book that that they've come out with that kind of recreates the catalog? I think it's the same guys that did the vintage collection book, the Blue Milk.
Oh yeah, okay. I know what you're talking about. I have not had a chance to see that. I absolutely need to do that. But I know a great account to follow, and I follow him on Instagram and Blue Sky too. I think is Battle Armor Dad, because so many of his posts, he collects those catalogs and he just shares those, and it's like. I don't care what kind of day you're having. If you grew up with that stuff and you see one of those posts come through, it's just like, yes, that is what I needed today. Because it's just seeing that stuff is just pure joy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish more companies would kind of go back and start doing those like setups for like their commercials. Like NECA kind of does it with their stop motion a little bit, but like I'd love to like get some of that nostalgia with like having commercials for toys again, like throw them on YouTube and stuff. Like,
yeah, it's like seeing the Power of the Force commercials from the '90s. Like I never saw those because I was collecting them, but I wasn't watching like kids TV at the time. And even those are pretty great. I mean, as far as even though Power of the Force is what it is, those commercials are pretty fun to watch.
Listen, as a kid, Power of the Force was great. I loved my extremely jacked Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
We all did. Power of the Force Chewbacca still sits proudly on my desk. So, but you know, to your point, it's like toy photography has never been more like fun and creative, like in like that small tight space as it's ever been. But I think the thing about like those old like advertisements and commercials and whatnot, it's like they showed off the toys well, but also the space that they existed in. And it's just like some of the things that they built is like, this kid's got a freaking waterfall in his backyard and he's playing with his hand. I want that kid's backyard as much as I want Trap Job.
That's a good point.
Yeah, just seeing some of the elaborate like dioramas they set up for those commercials, like I'm just like, that would cost me like thousands of dollars to get that set up here. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. And at the very bottom, it's a playset not included.
Yeah.
Or not for sale.
Yeah.
So, like, you can actually never get that.
The worst part is they probably just chucked it in a dumpster somewhere after they were done.
Oh, yeah.
That's the worst part of all. Breaks my heart.
The worst would be like they would take it home and some kid got to actually have it. Like
that's worse.
Well, it's funny now because so many of the people who are, you know, the toy makers now grew up with toys, but back then, I mean, that was a different generation. I mean, that was their jobs. They did the thing and they went home, and there wasn't sentimentality, I guess, attached to it. So it's just it's one of those time machine moments that it's like, if I had one, I would go back just to preserve some of that history, because at the time it wasn't thought of as that way, you know, and so much that lost to the ages. I think it would be heartbreaking to see just how much of it was lost, and that would be something that would be amazing if it was all preserved.
See, if I had the funding, I would want to go and I would link up with my buddy Vincent over at Vasco Toys, who does dioramas, and we would recreate all of those old and like almost make like a museum out of it, and like make videos like with them and the figures and stuff. Like I think that'd be so cool just to recreate some of those old setups and commercials and stuff.
The old Masters of the Universe slime pit commercial. I mean, that is imprinted on my brain as much as like any like human interaction I think I've ever had in my life. It's like I remember everything about that so vividly, and it's like, damn, I wish my room was like that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So you had that memory. So how long did you continue collecting? Was there ever a period where you kind of stopped and like did the whole gotta grow up like phase, or it's not cool to play with toys, or did you continue through all the 90s and everything like that too?
Yeah, so I did. That didn't stop me from like getting the occasional piece, because there were some like late in the original line Ninja Turtles figures that it's like I remember when they were doing like the Toon Turtles. That was mostly after I was done or very close to being finished. But they finally did all of the neutrinos, and it was like in Burn and and Vernon, and it's like I remember getting those. But it was pretty typical. It was like the junior high through high school years. It was drawn back significantly. And then I remember when I was in college. It's funny because it kind of all happened, at the same time. I was still picking up a few things here and there, but it was like the World of Springfield line and Spider-Man Classics, which was like the precursor to Marvel Legends and whatnot. All of those things like hit kind of at the same time. And then the Lord of the Rings line from Toy Biz.
Oh, yeah.
And then Marvel Legends went into full bloom, and then DC Direct started to do their stuff. And I was never big into like McFarlane stuff, but then NECA, the McFarlane offshoot, the DNA and original NECA was there, and so that was really the era when I got back into it, and I have not seen the daylight since.
That's fair. And you mentioned that Lord of the Rings line. I just saw quite a bit of those at the Exchange the other night. Like I like they were all still in the packaging. Like they had both the like not domed but the curved packaging, and then the later like simplified boxes that they did. And I was just like looking at it and like, oh, it's like $10. Oh, it's $20. I'm like, oh, that'd be so cool to just buy them all.
I know it would be, but
I have a pretty damn near complete collection of that, and
do you really? Wow.
One of those hills that I will die on is that I will argue anyone into oblivion that line was actually like late Toy Biz's best line, and it wasn't. It's better than their Marvel Legends stuff by a mile.
Oh, 100%.
Especially as it went on, because like the first wave, because I collected them up through, like I kind of bounced once they got into the slimmer packaging, and that's where all the good ones are.
All their superposable ones,
yeah. But like those initial waves were kind of action feature heavy, so those later ones were the best because they weren't tied to the action feature. They had good, especially for the time, great likenesses and really a nice attention to detail.
Yeah.
And I've been a Tolkien fan my entire life, so it was like that was really a dream come true to finally see some iteration of that happen. And it was funny that was one of the lines that really drew me back into collecting. And to this day, one of my most wanted lines that's never happened is one based off the Rankin Bass versions of that, and still never happened. So how many years? Over like 25 years later, here I am, and it's like, where's that stuff?
Oh man, that just brings back so many memories. I still remember because they had all the different, like they weren't afraid to get the bigger stuff out there. They had the horse like sets that they came out with. They had the tree beard that had like talked and his mouth moved, and I was just like,
the cave troll was amazing, and those box sets that they would release. And it would be rough because they would have like one or two figures exclusive to the box, but you'd have to get the other ones. But they were still so cool, and the packaging was so great. They that was really probably some of the earliest packaging that was like blew me away.
And they really were smart because they took the Star Wars approach where it's like, all right, this line's selling. We've got ways to refresh the main characters, so let's get these guys that only had a few minutes or less of screen time and make toys out of them because they'll look cool. So it's funny because I mentioned NECA too, because I have the NECA Balrog as well, which was like nobody thought that would actually happen, and that just like became kind of like the last piece of that collection, and it still holds up to this day. It's like that line, the World of Springfield, as I mentioned before, the old Palisades Muppet lines. Those
one of my faves.
Those have been permanent fixtures of my display with figures that haven't rotated out because like new versions of them have come along, but they still all hold up beautifully. So
are you adding the Sesame Street figures to that display?
So I will give you an emphatic yes to that. The NECA Sesame Street line, along with the Jada Toys Mega Man line, are my two favorite action figure lines going right now. I've got a lot of others that are really close, but the the NECA Sesame Street line is really something else, and we're only 3 figures in at this point.
Yeah, the almost seamless integration to the Palisades Muppet lines and those are, I mean, obviously it was on purpose, but the fact that they did it is just
Yeah,
chef's kiss. I mean, perfect.
Yeah.
yeah, and then you have the Boss Fight Studios Fraggle Rock line too, and
Yeah.
those go perfect with them. So it's like if you're a Jim Henson fan and Frank Oz fan, like I absolutely am, to have been admiring and enjoying that Palisades collection for 20 years, and now it's finally getting a chance to expand to the other places. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
So the next question we usually asks, I feel like we know the answer, so I'm gonna change it a little bit. Is there anything from your childhood that isn't reflected in your current collection? Because like as we can see, you got Turtles back there. You mentioned He-Man, how you like kept up with Marvel Legends. Like there's so many things that you kind of continued. Is there anything that just didn't make the cut that?
That's not in my current collection at all.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some things that just haven't had modern updates, but I still have them in my collection. I'm trying to think, what was it that? So probably one line that I will say, man, no, I still have one of those. Gosh. Okay, well, Jones from the old Police Academy line was the only figure that I still have from that collection, because for some reason I was really into that for a while, even though I wasn't a big Police Academy fan, and the police headquarters eventually became Dick Tracy's police headquarters in my collection. But that's a tough question, because it's like I've either been able to hold on to stuff, or I've gone back and like replaced vintage collections for things that haven't had updates, because with the exception of a few vintage lines, I don't typically collect a lot of vintage if they have modern iterations, simply because I'm collecting kind of new stuff. So man, that's a tough question, because I feel like I have so
All
much
right.
reputation of.
So is there a favorite vintage line? What's a favorite vintage line that hasn't been updated?
Yeah, my answer to that every single time, and people will laugh, people will agree, but Food Fighters.
Okay.
Mattel Food Fighters line. I will go to the mat on that one. Is that it's like the fact that line didn't get to do more, and Mattel hasn't done anything with it. It's the most ridiculous concept, but it's so perfect. And I've had so many of the things that I have loved been updated, that would probably be at the top of the ladder as far as that goes. I'd love to see some modern McDonald Land toys, because Remco had those. That was way before my time, but that's still an older one that's kind of out there. And you guys mentioned it earlier, Filmation Ghostbusters would be a blast, just simply because it's such a wild take on it. But I can only imagine what a nightmare that would be to try to bring something like that, bring that back. So yeah, those would probably be the big ones that had like recognizable lines when I was a kid that I'd like to see in some type of modern form.
All right. Yeah, like I said, I had to change it, because usually the question is just like, what from your childhood like affected and you're collecting. But I'm like, well, you kind of like continued most of them or kept most of them, so that doesn't really work. That's gonna be a real easy question. I'm like, how can I change this to keep it interesting? Yeah, that's so awesome though, that you've got so much of the stuff that you had as a kid, or at least have updated if it had updates. Like like I feel like a lot of people just either don't have the space, or like they fall out of love with some of the stuff, or they forget about it, because it's like one of those things where like you'll see it while you're at like a toy show, or on display at someone's house, and you'll be like, oh wow, I forgot that existed, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's funny. In the case of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I got lucky simply because most of that stuff got put in a space and it wasn't touched. And so I had a lot of that stuff still, and I was able to fill in some of the gaps that I had always had. And it was weird because for some figures, like some of the real rare ones, it's like I had all their accessories. The figures went missing. When you have to replace a rare figure and not have to worry about accessories,
Yeah.
the price drops market dramatically with that. So I kind of had some luck there. But then also there were some figures like my original like Merman figure and some other ones that like they became a part of like a junk shelf like around like my desk when I was like a teenager or whatnot. So those always found a way to kind of survive moves or purges or stuff like that. So I have a lot of like the key components of the stuff that I really loved when I was a kid, and then on some other stuff I've gone back and filled it back in.
That's wild that
I'm
you had
kinda-
accessories but not the figures, because Jamar has the opposite
that's
problem.
what-
He likes to throw away accessories.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like I'm talking like the ones that I definitely know. It's like Dr. L, Monty Moose, Hothead, a bunch of those guys. It's like I don't know what happened to the figures, but I had the bin with all of these accessories in it, and so that made it easy to go back and replace the ones that I didn't have.
That was you guys answered my question. I was curious, like, with some of the ones that you had the accessories of that you couldn't, find the figure. So
Yeah, those were some of the main ones, and it's like if you go to look on the secondary market, it's like sometimes masks and weapons and stuff like that. You put a couple of those together, and they're more expensive than the figure itself. So
yeah, and that's because a lot of that stuff did just go, got lost in a toy box or thrown away to begin with, vacuumed up, like what have you. So there's
Carpet monster.
Yeah, like there's so much that like goes into that where there's a lot of that stuff that just doesn't exist anymore, and it's yeah, it makes that market price go real far up real fast. That's
why I'm kind of picky choosy about the vintage stuff that I do, because it's gotten out of hand in the last 5 years for sure.
Oh yeah, everything since the pandemic and stuff, when things skyrocketed even more. And who knows, with the way things are going, if there's not a lot of new toys, we all have to get back into buying old toys.
Go back into vintage.
We live in a very dumb timeline.
Unfortunately. But we do live in a timeline where it feels like anything that either is some sort of, cartoon, superhero comic, movie property is getting a toy, getting an action figure, getting some sort of representation. Is there anything out there that you're like, I need this for my collection, and no one has made it or is currently making it?
It's funny because that's a good question, because I think throughout my entire like at least like toy collecting life, you ask me that question and I'll give you like 10 or 15 answers. And over the last several years, that has reduced dramatically because so many things have been done or are being done. Because for years, I'll be honest with you, it's like my two favorite lines that I said, Mega Man and Sesame Street were on the top of my list for years. And now that so much of that is being done, like I'll still cheat and I'll give you two because I default to this, is that aforementioned Rankin Bass Hobbit line would be something that I would absolutely die for. But then also, this one's a little cheat because there were some absolutely terrible, basically non-action figures that were released like 20 years ago of it. Is Big Trouble in Little China is another one. Like I'm talking like NECA style or however you like, good likenesses, highly articulated, that do the people in the movie and the things that they did in that movie justice. But I can't imagine what the likeness rights and how crazy that would be. But Big Trouble in Little China is out there. Those are definitely my two big ones. There are some other ones, but those would definitely be the two that I would prioritize over everything at this point.
And speaking of being in a dumb timeline, like we should have had 6 Jack Burton movies at this point. Like, what a crime.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, and it's like that's what happens when a true like cult classic like blossoms into something that like no one would have ever foreseen. So like seeing the further adventures um, of Jack Burton would have been absolutely amazing. I do though sometimes take solace in the fact that it's like, you know what? They did one movie, it was perfect, and there's nothing that has happened subsequently or can happen within that movie that can sully it in any way because it
This is
stands alone.
true.
Oh, yeah. I just that's one of those movies that I can turn on at any time and just love and enjoy and laugh at and be in awe of and remember watching it as a kid, being freaked out at parts, thinking parts are hilarious, even though I probably didn't really understand the jokes at the time. So yeah, that's definitely one of those that it's like, damn, I would love to have the core characters from Big Trouble in Little China.
That's a good choice. Yeah, like you said, there's so many things that get made. Like there was a point where I was like, man, I'd love to have a Sentinel, and Hasbro's now made two. Like, just it's wild the amount of things that like are getting made that you just wouldn't expect.
Well,
You know?
and Marvel Legends is a great example of that simply because it's like, I mean, Marvel Legends as a line has been around for 20 years, more than 20 years, at this point, almost 25 years at this point. But the fact that it's one of those lines that it's like, I don't, I have no qualms about like placing a look of a character in a collection when a new, vastly improved version of that figure comes out. And it's like every time that happens, I'm like, all right, this is it. It's never going to be able to be topped. And they still find a way to do it. So
Every time.
I marvel at that. And so that one's fun. And it's crazy because I used to be, for so many years, I was an all-in Marvel Legends collector, like everything. But with everything else that I collect and the fact that there's so much Marvel Legends over the last few years, I've curated my collection a lot more with like those iconic looks of classic characters that I really love, and I think it's made for a stronger collection. But man, I don't buy a ton of it anymore. But when you get one of those figures and it hits, man, it hits. So it's just the line that can't be stopped, won't be stopped. Will probably be around when everything else is stopped. So yeah.
Yeah, like that's one of the few lines
Speaking
I'm
of
not worried
which,
about.
though, I'm curious now just to get another answer off of this or off of this first question. But is there anything like turtle related that you're like, man, I cannot believe after all of these things that we have that this hasn't been made yet?
Right?
I know it's like the most difficult question
We're
because it's
scraping
like
VHS tapes off
everything is
the.
out there.
Yeah.
But even something that's like vintage that we haven't gotten in like a modern form yet or anything like that.
And that's a really good question because I'm, especially now because Masters of the Universe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are my two biggest lines when I ever collecting as a kid, and it's pulled through as an adult. And I'm actually like closer to the other side of the spectrum on that I'm starting to feel just maybe a little turtle fatigue
Like,
at this point.
yeah.
But the easy answer for me always used to be the Archie comics versions of them, and now it's like,
Yeah.
what? They are making these and they're making them beautifully. Gosh, I feel like I really should have an answer for this, and you're challenging me with it. At this point, because I'm just trying to think of like the turtles, because obviously there's stuff that hasn't been done,
Right.
but like stuff that's like really super meaningful to me as far as turtles go. That's a really really tough question.
For me, I'll give you like my side. And they already know the answer because I've been saying it every single time. Neck is like unveiling something, and I'm like, we're getting them this time. Is I kind of want partly for like the meme factor of it, but next mutation. Like I feel like it's something that
Every year,
every turtle fan
Comic-Con
kind of is
season comes,
embarrassed
and
of. But like just seeing like the Archie stuff and like everything coming out and I'm like, oh my god, like they have actually nailed this and made this like somehow better than what I would have imagined it could have been. I would love to see like them do like the next mutation and just see like, all right, we get it, we understand the TV show, you know, it is what it is, but like to get a modern version of those would be pretty sweet.
That was something that jumped into my head along with like the Jim Lee design turtles, where it's like
Yeah,
there
Jim
are
Lee's
people
another.
who are definite fans of those, but overall, for the most part, most of the fandom doesn't like
Oh yeah.
treat them as kindly as other versions. But since you mentioned NECA, it would be one of those things that it would be. I cannot believe they made this, and I cannot believe how freaking cool they actually made this. And now I'm gonna have it because, admittedly, there are probably some iterations of the turtles, like the second and third movies. I've only seen the third movie once, and I am not a big fan of the second one. But damn it, the figures are so freaking cool. I've got them all in my
Yeah.
collection. So that would probably be, some good examples of this. Talking about that is like if you kept up with like the stuff that was shown off at Toy Fair
Hmm.
this year, the fact that we're getting Dan Sakai turtles is
Oh, they're
Yeah.
so
I
cool
mean,
looking.
God.
I never, and I mean, I'm friends with people, and it's like that caught me so off guard in such a wonderful way that it's like, man, that makes me so happy that they're gonna give us something that I never even like. I didn't even think about like the possibility of it because they didn't even enter my headspace as far as that goes. But that is so awesome that they're making those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw those and I was like, I shouldn't need these, but they look so amazing. I want them.
Yeah. And I will say, I know things are sticky and difficult when you're working with a a licensor with a giant property like Ninja Turtles,
Mm.
especially when split up amongst a lot of different companies doing things. But while I'm admiring what they're doing, taking on a little bit more with the 2003 Ninja Turtle stuff, I really, really, really loved seeing updated vintage designs of the turtles that Super 7 was doing in their Ultimates line. And I know that's kind of been put on a back burner right now for a lot of reasons, but there are still some characters out there that, man, I would love to just see, like they were doing at the beginning, where it was just like the modern interpretation of that original design, because that's like getting the ones that you loved all over again with like the sensibilities and the scale and whatnot that you have now. So that's a cheaty kind of answer, but man, I would love to see them be able to go back and continue some of that stuff.
Yeah,
I agree.
it's
I agree.
definitely kind of really unfortunate what happened to that whole situation. Like, it's cool to see, like you said, see the 2003 ones. I can't wait to see those in hand when they come out.
Yeah.
I also the 2012 ones from NECA. Like I keep seeing like they had those photos of the like no paint prototypes. I'm just like, oh come on, when are these coming? I need them.
Yeah, and watch out, because if you're a fan of that show, it'll probably be a blessing or a curse that Trevor, that's one of his favorite iterations of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and so since it is, you're probably going to have a lot to collect if you're into that.
And that's my favorite
I,
iteration too. So like,
Me too.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be.
I have a feeling you're going to see a lot if the first couple waves are successful, which I am betting that they are going to
No
be.
chance they're
I think
not.
you're,
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot of stuff from there, because there were a lot of cool designs for characters and
Absolutely.
new characters that were introduced during that. I didn't catch that show as it was happening, but I went back and watched it all, and it's so much fun. So
Mm-hmm.
So
it's one of, like, I feel fortunate that I grew up when I did with kind of like that original like cartoon era, because the comic books, the original Mirage stuff was a little early for me, especially because of the tone. But I feel fortunate I grew up in that time. But man, 2012 and even like the 2003, it's like, man, getting to grow up, if those are your versions
have
of
this.
Turtles, that's great too. Because man, how awesome
Yeah.
is that?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've gone back and watched some of 2003, and like, I don't remember it being this dark as a kid.
You know, it's crazy because on screen, I feel like those are like, as far as animated versions of the Turtles go, I feel like those are probably my favorite designs because they did so well to balance, you know, the mask and skin color differences that kind of the vintage line and the Fred Wolf cartoon introduced to make them more, sellable and identifiable, kind of offset by some of the mirage that you absolutely see coming through and some of those designs. It's like those might be some of my favorite animated turtle designs ever. So yeah, I'm excited for the four turtles from Super 7. I don't know if I'll go much past that simply because I've got too much. But I think those are going to be fun, and like you, I can't wait to see how like all the new articulation and whatnot works out for those, because there's a lot of firsts for them there. But I'm excited to see how they turn out.
Yeah, I am too. I can't wait to see those in person and just kind of get to pose them and mess around. And speaking of posing, I want to go back real quick. You mentioned, we were talking about Marvel Legends, and you talked about how, like, you always upgrade, and it always gets better and better. So I've got a very controversial question for you. What is your stance on the Maximum series?
So I think it is a logical progression for them, simply because it's really putting them in the same space as some of the like smaller toy companies, what they're doing with a lot of their releases. I think Hasbro probably catches a lot of flack for it because they're a big company and do that. So I think it is a very, very cool idea that I will buy characters that I really want or really take advantage of that format. So so the Thing is my favorite Marvel character, and the Fantastic Four is my favorite team. If they made a Maximum series thing, I would buy it, no question. Spider-Man, I almost did it, but there was just something about he's great. He just feels like he's a touch too moderny in some of his like design elements that I was like, if they do another one that's a little bit more like bright blue and red, but I would definitely be all about that. The Hulk, I like some of the stuff they did with it, but I don't like any of the portraits that come with that. That's what's keeping me off of that. So while I have not committed to any of them yet, I think it's a cool idea. And when they get to those characters, or just like they really make one that speaks to me, I'll be all over it. Yeah. What do you guys think about it? Because it is controversial. I mean, it's funny when toy controversies happen, and it's like, if you don't like it, it's not for you. Save yourself the $50 and move on. But you're fine. It's fine to have an opinion about it, but it's like, if somebody's into it, don't yuck it for them. You know?
Right.
I mean,
it's also not like I was just gonna say, it's not like they're just like, all right, well, we're done with everything else for now on, going forward, everything's gonna be Maximum. Like, we're still getting kind of like best of both. So like,
it's also not like they like are just giving you the normal retail figures repackaged with maybe a couple extra accessories.
Right,
like they're at least making improvements on the figures too.
They could have just easily done that and just been like, here we go, more accessories. This is what you guys want, $50.
Well, and I think too, to your point, is that if the Maximum series is successful, it will ultimately benefit the regular Marvel Legends line, because ain't no Marvel Legends body in the history of the world, I don't care how it's released, has only ever been released one time. So it's like when they're making these improvements to these, the Spider-Man figure that's got 1 billion accessories and whatnot, and is sold under that series, chances are you're probably going to see that, or a lot of it, in a figure later on too. So it's going to help push that as far as I think. And then for some of the characters, like I mean they've done Spider-Man and Hulk first. It's like, how many Spider-Man and Hulk figures, Marvel Legends alone, do you already own? It's like, where do they go next? It's like, it's either super artist specific, which they've been in that pool a little bit, or it's like ratcheting it up into the ultimate version of, you know, of these characters that you've got a million versions of them already, right?
Which I feel like it needs to be. Like, I feel like if you're gonna do it, you got to make it the best version of it that you can, because it is gonna be just the popular characters at that price point. They're not gonna be able to put, you know, the one-off characters that you get once every 5-10 years, if ever. Like,
It's like my most wanted Marvel Legends figures for like since the line started has essentially been the Inhumans. They're not making any Inhumans in the Maximum series. I get that, but there is a chance that they might do a more like what I consider iconic, like Bronze Age Spider, another Spider-Man in that look too. And when and if they do something like that, I'll take it. You know, so yeah.
that's fair, yeah. Because I've got the Spider-Man here, and man, it's great. Like, I hate it because I don't want to support that $50 price tag. But if they do more like this, I'm in. Like, they've got me. Like, it turned out fantastic. I've been playing with it for the past like 3 or 4 days since it showed up.
It's funny that I've been kind of on a roller coaster with like the pricing of that line, because when they announced Spider-Man, I was like, oof. But then Hulk, it was like, compared to Spider-Man, it's less than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, I mean, we're still on the, you know, north side of halfway to 100 on both of them. So,
which may work out for them, because I feel like a lot of the import companies, with everything that's going on, they're going to get priced out. Because your $100 Mofex figure is going to be $150. You're same with like figure arts and all that, or more.
Well, and I think that Hasbro, say what you want about them, there are a couple of lines that they do that it's like they do compete with, in my opinion, the quality and some of the things that you get with some of those more expensive import figures. Now, I'm sure people will that will be a honeypot for people to rip apart, as far as me saying that. But really, it's like when the gap gets small enough, it's like I'll take the Hasbro one, and I've got a lot of import figures, but it's like I stopped pretty much collecting Marvel import figures. I collect very few Star Wars import figures anymore, just because the gaps have closed so significantly between, you know, the Hasbro lines and those. As far as I'm concerned, it's like I still like a little bit of toyness to my toys, and I don't treat my import figures like that at all. So, yeah,
That's fair. I think the only thing that would probably be hard for me is like the Mafex Gambit is such a perfect figure. I just don't know if Hasbro could pull that off, because I don't think they'll ever give him a like proper soft goods coat, like not like the lab coats we get where it's kind of a little boxy, a little too big. Like, so it's like you either have to go and do some arm swaps and just give him the Mafex coat, or like you just have to try to sub him in, and like they scale okay, but not like perfectly.
Yeah, and I think that's really one of the places that I hope they explore with the Maximum series. I get it. Those A-list characters are really needed in order to get people, because I mean, even if some people don't want to admit it sometimes, usually people pay for the character.
Yeah.
You know, it's like who it is. But there are characters that you said that would take advantage of other materials that would be appropriate for a higher price point, or, you know, having uniqueness of sculpts that don't really apply to much if anything else, that it's like, okay, here's the space to do it. So I'm hoping that it's successful enough so that, you know, they get to a point where it's like they're focusing on A plus level figures right now. Even if they got to like that A minus B plus level of like character in terms of like popularity, that could be a huge thing for some of those characters that just need that type of execution to be done right.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, it's gonna be interesting to see where this line goes, and because I'm a big fan of like the import figures, like the stuff that Mafex has done with the Marvel and DC stuff. I'm like over the moon for, and if Hasbro can benefit with that higher price point and make it worthwhile, then I they can convert me.
It's only a win for you for sure.
Yeah, that saves me money, especially with the way things are going. So let's play a little different game here. So you can say like house is on fire, or you're on an island, and you only get to like choose one toy line. Like everything else disappears, it's gone. One toy line to keep. It can be, if it's still active, you can continue collecting it, but like nothing else. What would you pick?
Oh boy. That's a good one, because I should say something like of an iteration of Ninja Turtles or Motu classics or something like that. And I don't know, maybe it's recency bias, or maybe it really is the fact that I've wanted this line my entire life. And I remember, like, even as a kid, like planning what an action figure line would look like for it and doing drawings of it. And so I'd probably hold on to the Jada Mega Man line, even though it's new and there aren't a lot of figures in it yet. If I could still collect it, if it keeps on going, and that's the one, I think it would be that one, because it really is the line that is finally happening, that I've wanted my entire life, and it's perfect now. So I would go with that one.
That great choice. I love everything that Jade is doing right now. The Street Fighter, the Scooby Doo, the cereal line, the Mega Man line. Like, I'm like, give them more. Give them that. Like, their figures are great, price points, great. The amount accessories are awesome. Like, count me in.
It's funny because I count June from Jada as a friend, and when you are talking to him and he's like talking shop, not necessarily like on camera, but just like talking about things, like if you like talk to him at a show or whatever else, it's like that guy knows. He knows what like the smart choices are, how to handle your time as well. He it's If you're a fan of any of the properties that Jada is making, I mean, he does good work. So it's like, I wish he could clone himself so stuff would come out. There more stuff would come out faster, but man, it's always worth the wait. With I say Mega Man, but you mentioned Street Fighter, Scooby Doo is going to be insanely cool. The cereal mascots, that's another soft spot for me. It's like, I love the fact that they're making figures of that stuff. So Jada's been at the top of my list for a long time, and Mega Man's one of my favorite things ever. So I would pick that.
If you could do me a large favor, just sprinkle in Mega Man X just out there next time you're around. Just say, Mega Man X. Because this is when I grew up. That's my like Mega Man. So Mega Man X and that series, past that, it's just like I want to jump into it, but I'm like, I'm only doing it because I don't have the Mega Man X characters. So like, I don't know if it's a smart move for me to just buy them anyways. But I guess if I support the
They're
line that
great
lives
figures.
on, yeah.
I mean, they're little firecrackers, that's for sure. I'll say this: I am obviously a big fan of like the classic canon, and Mega
Yeah.
Man X. Cool. I really do think that there's probably potential to see at least like versions of Mega Man X,
Yeah, I would
or
even take
like
it.
Zero and whatnot, at
Yeah.
some point. I think that like with the Mavericks, I don't know how much they lend themselves to like the formula that's kind of in place for the line, with like
Yeah.
able to do reuse and stuff like that. But I think if Mega Man continues to build in popularity, which I believe it is doing, as far as that line goes, I wouldn't be surprised to see at least some representation of X. I mean, I don't know how they wouldn't do it, because there are a lot of people whose Mega Man is Mega Man X, like you. So that's a buying public that wants it. So definitely.
I will die.
He's been every time we talk about that line, that's his first thing is
I'm
like,
like,
give me Mega Man X, and I'm like, you got a long while. They're only like one wave into the Mega Man line, but like it's gonna be a few years.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's like, man, if you do one thing, it would be clone himself. Then there's one of him that works on every line, and it's like, hey, there's like 4 series a year and 6 figures in each series, and that'd be great.
It wouldn't be great for a waltz though.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so we've made it to the final question.
Okay.
So,
all right.
What is the one thing in your collection that is like the prized possession, the pinnacle, like the one thing above all the others that you look at and you're like, that's it. That's my favorite thing in this room.
I mean, I think just because there's nostalgia and personal memories attached to it, it would probably be the fact that I still have my original Masters of the Universe Merman figure. That ranks very high on that. I wasn't allowed to collect G.I. Joe as a kid, but I did have a Chuckles figure that I got from my cousin that has somehow made it all this time with me as well. So for those that have kind of been a part of me, since childhood, I would say those would definitely be at the top of the list. For things that I've like added, more recently, that I've had some been like enamored with or been a fan of for a long time and have only, relatively recently been able to add them as the Knickerbocker Lord of the Rings figure line. I have all of the figures from that line now, with the exception of Frodo's horse, which I have no real desire to get. And I do now happily own a Dick Tracy blank figure, which I've been racing since childhood, like thinking that it didn't actually exist for so long. And I've been fortunate enough to make a lot of friends in this hobby, and some of them live north of the border, and some of them have better connections to some things like that. So a few years ago I was able to add that figure, and that was that was like the final piece of the puzzle to a line that I've like always loved. It's like the original the Warren Beatty Dick Tracy movie is one of my favorite like movies from my childhood ever. And I had the whole line except for the blank, and it's like I've always had them, and it's like that was a final piece that was a big deal for me to be able to get. So that's definitely one of them too.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's awesome. Yeah, like
being one of those kids that was chasing that figure down, not understanding that it wasn't around in the U.S. Because I was collecting that, and I love that movie too. And yeah, I've never actually seen one, so that's pretty impressive.
It's funny because the way that it happened is not traditional, because I can't believe, because I resigned myself to getting the figure that was complete except for the mask. And as a kid, I didn't even realize that it was a mask. I didn't realize that the breathless likeness was underneath that mask, and that was the whole reason why they didn't, release it in that first line, because they didn't want to spoil the movie before it came out. But I got the figure without the mask originally, and then somehow, not even like 3 months later, it was like, I got somebody who just has the mask, and I was like, oh my God. So it's like, it's weird how it all came together. And it's like, I have to change how, like a lot of times I'm guilty of posing a figure, putting it in a display. And unless it's something that I regularly interact with, it's like, that's kind of how it is then. Mm-hmm. But with that figure, it's like, I periodically change it out with how it's displayed, because it's like, oh, there's a mask. Oh, no, it's not on there. You didn't know that existed. And so it's great, because most of the people who come through, like my space friends and whatnot, they have no idea about that figure. And it just, it just sits in the collection with everything else. It's not like out on a podium or anything, but it's like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I've been looking for you my entire life. And it's pretty crazy that I got to add that to my collection. So
way cool.
Yeah. I feel like That's a hard answer to beat just because of the story behind it, of like the fact that, you know, it wasn't released in the US, you managed to find it but didn't have the mask, and then like you managed to get the mask a few months later. Like, yeah, that's a whole journey for that one. So yeah, that's a great choice. Damn.
Yeah. And I did it, and honestly, I consider like the greatest accomplishment of it is that I actually spent what I was like comfortable with, because I mean you can go out and you can get one. I mean you can go out and get one today, and it's like, oh God, they're so expensive. But just being patient with it, because I'm not generally a patient collector. It's like if I want something, I want to go out and get it. But being patient with that one for years. It paid off eventually, so that was good.
That's incredibly relatable. I am the impatient child of this this channel. I will actively pay extra if I find something to get it like faster rather than just wait.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you know what? An hour ago you didn't know you wanted that collection, and now you've got 6 of them coming. What are you doing?
You're like, well, there's an entire like several waves on the way to the house right now. Huh. That's gonna be
and I'm really guilty of that. Like I said, I don't collect a lot of vintage stuff, but when I do collect vintage stuff, it's generally stuff that hasn't had a modern update, or it's just so out there that it's like I've got to have that. So I get real like. I almost hate it when there's a little bit of a lull between releases of stuff that I actively collect, because then I make stupid decisions. It's like, it's really been, you know, a few weeks I've added something. It's like, what expensive vintage shit can I go spend my money on?
Because you can't just stop.
Yeah, you can't be like, man,
stop my.
I haven't treated myself this payday. Huh.
Let's
pull up the old eBay
app. I haven't gotten a box delivered since Monday. There's a problem here.
That's kind of how all this happened. Like, I just didn't have something. I was like, well, let's do vintage collection, all of it.
Yeah. Well, that's impressive. I will say that I love Star Wars. I don't have the nostalgia attachment to the vintage line because it was before my time, really. I have some figures from it, like my favorite figures of it, but man, that's one of those lines that the original Star Wars run and like original Superpowers, seeing that stuff, and I'm not a carded collector, seeing that stuff carded and just displayed together, it's like that is what it was. That's what it is meant to be, and I'm always so impressed with that stuff. So I'm definitely jealous of that wall behind you, because that's really cool.
Well, this is the vintage collection,
right,
modern ones, but yeah,
but it's like their homage that they're doing to that is like recreating it now. So it's like, you know, I'm a Black Series collector, but nothing about like the packaging or the winks are really. You know, tied to that when that line does a good job of it. So I wish the Black just do their packaging like that.
They do sometimes. Sometimes you get the like Power of the Force packaging, or the vintage packaging, or even oddly enough the Revenge of the Sith ones, which, you know, tug on my heartstrings. I remember having a bunch of those as a kid. So it's like, I'm like, damn, I kind of want that. All right, awesome. Well, that concludes this session of Toyfarerapy. Veebs, we appreciate you coming on the show. I had
a great time talking with you guys. I really appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Like, especially with someone with, you know, such a vast collection like what you have. It's kind of fun to hear all the different things, because I feel like there's so many stories to be told in that room. And
well, it's funny. I like talking about stuff like that, because it's like, hey, stupid, you have this stuff because you like it and it's cool. And it's like, talking about it in like a discussion like this reminds me, it's like, you don't just sit down here for no reason. It's because it's the stuff that you enjoy. So getting to talk about it from time to time is a good. I appreciate you letting me like have the therapy to, appreciate what I have sometimes.
We're always happy to have people come sit on the couch and get to relive their childhood and reconnect with their toys.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you enjoyed this session of Toyfarerapy, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps us out, gets you a bunch of toy-related content in your feed. You can also check out all the social medias we have. We've got, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky. You can join our Discord channel. All of that is in our link tree below. You can check Jarmar out on whatever random thing we come up with this week. It's usually like only feed or only turtles or,
Only show.
Jarmar_games. You can check Nate out on Instagram. And do you have Twitter still?
Technically, no one has Twitter anymore.
Listen, if Homeboy can dead name his kids, I'm dead naming his company. It's Twitter. But yeah, anyway, all of our links are in the description below. I'd also like to thank our partner, Nerdzoic Toys. Matt, big nerdy, great guy. He's been a friend of the show for a while. He is partnered with us to be the official toy retailer of Modern Toyfare. So make sure to head over to nerdzoic.com where you can pre-order all your new action figures, check out all of his back stock. Great prices, great shipping. Also check him out, Instagram, Facebook. I think he still has Twitter. All his links are in the description below as well. Veebs, let everyone know.
And also make sure you're real quick, I just wanted before with Nerdzoic, just make sure you're on the mailing list, because sometimes at least a couple times a week he throws some stuff out there at really great discounted prices,
or
so
at least
don't miss out on those.
Facebook, because those pop up all the time on my Facebook too.
Yeah,
that's a good one too.
Yep.
Anyway, Veebs, where can everyone find you?
Well, it's funny because I've actually been kind of, I guess, decreasing my online footprint a little bit and really just focusing on a couple places. So Instagram and Blue Sky is where I probably have my most of my posting and whatnot that goes on there. But also I still from time to time contribute to Robokilla's Robo Don't Know YouTube channel with industry interviews, and also we do live streams from time to time. It's like we've both been so busy as of late, but those are really the three places that I'm most active anymore.
Awesome. I'll make sure I have links for all of that in the description below. Also, I enjoy tuning in or catching usually the rewatch of the live streams when you guys do them. It's always a blast.
I enjoy that format a lot, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to get back to a more regular pace with that at some point.
I look forward to that too, because it is definitely missed. But that is going to wrap up our session. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you didn't, sorry. Let us know in the comments below, I guess.
Blame me.
That's new.
But hopefully we'll catch you next week. Same toy time, same Toyfare channel. Thank you for watching. More matte finish so it's not as glossy. We're going to take what Robo does, and I went online on Amazon, and it showed up a couple days later, and I ordered good old Mr. Super Clear Matte. So hopefully this stuff works as well for me as it does for Robo.